Welcome back to WTOL. 11-year day polls are open in Ohio and Michigan as voters decide on local candidates and issues. But the look of campaigns and voter behavior in this election may be different than in past years. Luetke from Thread Marketing Group is here to help us understand what's going on in today's election and whether that could affect the outcome tonight. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Amanda, good morning. It's great to be back.
Yeah, so election day, it's November 2nd, okay, but what's going on this year that we may not have seen in past years?
Well, so much that today's election could be a dress rehearsal for how political campaigns are conducted for years to come. This is the result of a couple of factors. The first is voter fatigue, which has been caused by 2 years of COVID quarantine, plus a punishing election year last year. And this is on top of rapid changes in technology, how voters get their information about candidates and issues.
Let's talk a little bit more about voter fatigue, and what does that have to do with the pandemic and quarantine?
Well, we all feel that society has entered a period of disruption that affects many of our traditional habits. And too much election versus COVID, people are less likely to get back to old habits. This includes voting. And this habit may be a sticking point today as fewer people go out to vote. Plus, last year's election was so exhausting that it seems to be everywhere and went on forever. People came out of it with information overload, so some of them may be taking a breather this year from voting. So the result today could be lower voter turnout. Only 8% of eligible people voted in Toledo's primary in September, and although there's been an uptick in voting in the last couple of days, early voting suggests countywide turnout in Lucas County this year could be as low as 25%.
Yeah, and I think if they say, well, it's not a presidential election, you know, maybe some of the issues on the ballot, that it's not enough to really bring them out to the polls. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if voter turnout is lower this year as well. You mentioned technology, too.
Yeah, well, you know, we all know that information and the way we get information is changing. Today, at least 75% of adults use at least one social media site like Facebook or Instagram. So in recent years, campaign spending has moved away from traditional media like newspapers and radio towards social and digital media. Last year, for example, the Trump campaign spent half of its budget on digital outreach. Now, a key benefit of technology to the campaigns is that they can target social media users by political preference, income, likelihood to vote, thousands of data points, and that helps them get out supporters and influence on deciders when it gets down to the home stretch like today. Also, a message that shows up on social media has your undivided attention, and users generally repost these messages they like, so that gives a campaign an even wider reach. Frankly, tactics that we see nationwide and saw nationwide last year are beginning to show up locally. And in this environment, television, direct mail, and billboards still remain strong, but social media is the new game changer.
Yeah, that's where all of these candidates seem to be doing their campaigning. Do you think that will help offset some of that voter fatigue and maybe bring some others out to the polls who maybe haven't come in the past?
You would think that where that would show up is in early voting, and the early voting was down around 8% in Lucas County, so not so good. Well, we'll see. You know, I think that this will have an impact on our elections today. A key race to watch to maybe gauge this is the Toledo's mayor's race. Mr. Finkbeiner, who we see here, has generally run an old school campaign, door-to-door canvassing, a lot of yard signs, some television and radio, plus, of course, decades of name recognition. So a higher turnout of older voters responding to his approach could help him. Mayor Kepsikevich very much employed the new tactics, social media, targeting voters, very efficient campaigns fueled by significant fundraising. So although there are many other factors, we have to watch this one to see who prevails. The good news is we will know tonight how it all turns out, and then we can do our analysis in the morning.
Yes, and we'll be very interested to do that analysis and see what exactly played out here, if these predictions played any roles or not. So, and of course, we'll have the results as they come in tonight. Mark, thank you so much for joining us this morning and providing a little insight in what we might see later today.
Always good to see you. Thanks.
Yeah, you too. Take care.